Hi, Filmatics. Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have a special guest, Steve Hoefer, who is one of my favorite TV directors. Steve is known for directing Henry Danger, iCarly, Zoey 101, and more. He's also a podcast producer and host. Steve, welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. It's great to be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you. I wanted to ask you, where are you recording and streaming live from today?
I am up in southern Washington state, about 30 minutes away from downtown Portland, Oregon. It's where I've lived for getting close to 10 years now, and just commute down to LA as I need to work on different projects. But for the last year, I've kind of been camped up out here.
Wow. So you commute all the way from Portland, Oregon to come work. That's amazing. So, well,
it's not an everyday thing. I keep an apartment down in the Burbank area.
Okay, great. So, Steve, as you know on the show, well, we always talk about favorite films to start off. And I wanted to know, what is one of your favorite films growing up as a kid that you loved?
Willy Wonka is definitely one of those, along with The Sound of Music. And then I remember being incredibly bored one summer. My friends and I were just hanging out around the house too much. And so Mom kicked us out and said, go see this movie down at the theaters downtown. And we didn't know what it was. It was called Rocky. And it was a wow moment for movies. It's like, wow, this is amazing. I'm so glad Mom made me to go see it. And it's one of those movies that I rewatch, every couple of years. Just still love the film.
Your mom is so nice. Hey, go out of the house and go watch a movie, and you see Rocky. Yeah, yeah. I actually interned for Irwin Winkler out here in Beverly Hills. One of the producers of Rocky.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And he'd always go, Marilyn. And he had an office full of plants, green plants. Like there was a plant in every corner of his office. It was just all plants, potted plants. And he was so nice and lovely. So I love Rocky too. So that's a good one. I wanted to know, you guys all know that I love directing, but I wanted to know, since you were a director, TV director, is there a Criterion film that possibly inspired you to your career path?
I think since I do a lot of TV, there's a movie and a television show. One of the movies was 12 Angry Men, the old Henry Fonda movie. I love that because I was a theater major at USC. I studied theater. I took a couple film courses there at the wonderful film school. But 12 Angry Men, which was written as a play originally, and they shot it, and it was a courtroom drama. So it looked attainable to me, and it looked like something that was kind of the blending of both worlds, which is kind of why I'm a sitcom director, because I love the rehearsal process that you have during the week. We usually have 3 days of rehearsal, and we shoot for 2 days. And so I love that aspect of my old theater roots that I bring, to television. And that's why Cheers, the sitcom Cheers, was really the thing that made me want to direct, because I thought, wow, look at that ensemble cast and the cool set, and it's all done in the words and the characters. There's not a lot of stunts and a lot of gimmicks. It was just like theater, and that's the thing that always kind of attracts me to it. So I'd say, 12 Angry Men, Cheers are probably as responsible as anything else.
Okay, great. So speaking of leading up to that, since you're a director, I was wondering, do you have a favorite director, and could you share like one of your favorite directing shots from a movie?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many. I think it's probably a three-prong answer. Overall, Steven Spielberg is he and Alfred Hitchcock have always been my go-to guys for film. Love them both, just all their works. And because of the variety of shots or the way scenes are edited together, they're amazing. But I also have a special love for Rob Reiner and Nora Ephron, because I love those kind of romantic comedy movies. And they're great. But one of my favorite shots in filmmaking of all time is from a Brian De Palma film called Blowout, which starred John Travolta and John Lithgow. And for those who don't know, in a nutshell, John Travolta is a industry film sound man, and he's a mixer. And he was out one night with his portable unit, getting different sounds of owls and crickets and the babbling brook and the wind in the trees. And he hears a car crash, which was preceded by either a tire blowing out or possibly a gunshot, and a murder takes place. Well, starts going, crazy, and the authorities are after him for the evidence. The bad guys are after him to silence him. And there's a shot where he comes into his lab to find the tapes that he needs. Well, De Palma has taken a crane and he's inverted his camera underneath the crane and put a motor on top of it. And he lowers the crane down into the set. So it just looks like it's panning the room to start with. And he comes to the door of the room and Travolta comes in and he goes camera left as the camera follows him. But then he stops and the camera keeps going and it just keeps circling the room. And Travolta keeps going in and out of the shot. And it helps to build up that frantic feeling that he must have because he can't find the evidence as he needs. The camera just keeps moving around and around at a decent pace, and Travolta goes in and out, and he's searching, and he's making a bigger mess of the room. It's a fantastic shot. It's really, really cool. But De Palma, as he was with The Untouchables and other stuff, has a lot of good shots.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm going to watch that because that sounds incredible. I wish I had a crane. I've never been able to use anything but like a skateboard and a dolly on my shore house.
Yeah, well, I love using dollies, and I've gotten to use jibs, not full on cranes, but you get as close as you can get.
Yeah. Well, speaking of since you do TV, you don't use drones. Have you used drones for any of the films yet? That you do? Because I know you do films as well.
We tried using a drone. I think it was on the television series Game Shakers with Kel Mitchell and the cast of kids. And it was an earlier drone, and it was having trouble inside the soundstage. We were using it in the soundstage because we had a big multi-level set, so we were trying to pull off this one shot. But it was having trouble connecting with its GPS link. So it wasn't turning out to be very accurate. So we ended up only getting a couple shots from that, and we had to go back and use the jib and just kind of recreate the best that we could. We still got good shots. It would have been neat if the drone could have pulled it off, but that was my one experience. I have a drone myself, and one of the things I've been doing over COVID is trying to get to be a much better pilot of it.
Oh gosh, I can't wait to like fly one. My neighbors are YouTube. They have a YouTube house over there of creators, and they have a drone. So I was like, oh, can I try it? So yeah. So
I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
Wow, it's so exciting. Well, what's even more exciting, our audience would love to learn how you started your career path to becoming this fabulous director in TV, and we'd love to find out, like, where did you start? Did you grow up in Oregon over there?
No, I actually grew up in Northern California, in the North Bay, in the wine country, Santa Rosa, where Charles Schultz, the cartoonist, lived most of his life, at least his adult life. When I was down at USC, I was looking for a job, and I got a job as a tour guide at Universal Studios back in the early to mid 80s.
Wow.
And I kept that job for about 5.5 years or so. And what was nice about that job is one of the fringe benefits was you got to go down occasionally to the lower lot. If our supervisors could arrange tours for small groups of guides, and we go down and watch some filming on a set, or we go take a post-production tour so we could see a Foley stage, a scoring stage, the different types of sound editors, film editors, music editors. So we got exposed to a lot of things, which just helped to make the fire burn even more intensely.
That is really cool.
So also through that job, yeah, it was a great job, and I still have so many good friends from the tour. But I started to go away from my performer roots because in high school and college, I both performed on stage and I also directed. Also, I love directing theater. So anyway, they helped me make some contacts on the lower lot, and the sitcom coach hired me for just the tail end of their season just to be a set PA, and that basically means you're answering the phones and helping the assistant directors with paperwork and stuff like that. those producers took me on to a couple pilots, one of which was The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I worked on that pilot and then the first 2 seasons of Fresh Prince, doing PA work and post-production PA work. Those producers helped to get me into the Directors Guild as a stage manager / assistant director.
Wow.
For a Patti LaBelle sitcom, in which I was the second, and I was just in charge of the background, which was plentiful because it was a show about a nightclub owner. So there was at least 2 scenes every show about the nightclub, and so there was a lot of extras to block. Then that first AD took me with her as her second AD onto the sitcom Boy Meets World. And then I became the first AD in year 3 of that. And that's also where I began my directing career. Then their final season, they gave me a chance to direct a great episode, which was by a first-time writer. And it was a spoof on Casablanca. So the first part of the sitcom was in color. And then the Topanga character gets sucked through a vortex in her closet and transported to black and white Casablanca. And they all took on different roles from the movie Casablanca. So it was fun. Our DP had a blast directing or lighting for black and white. And that's how I got my directing start. And then
that's amazing.
There was an opening over at Nickelodeon for a first AD. I went over there and then started directing very soon. And by the time my second season of Nickelodeon work came, which was on the show, Amanda show, and then Drake and Josh came along shortly after that, I was pretty much directing full time.
Wow. So it looks like your path was just, you hit one step of the ladder and you just kept walking up the ladder. And it's amazing because like there's so many people you hear they've interned or worked somewhere and they can't even get to step 2. And it just seems like you were just meant to be a director. I mean, the steps were just there and you just climbed up them, but obviously you do exceptional work. So I just think it's so cute. The Casablanca one, that TV show, that's amazing and so creative. So you went to Boy Meets World, then the Patti LaBelle, and then you went to
the opposite of then from Boy Meets World I went to Nickelodeon for the Amanda show, Drake and Josh, and all that, and then iCarly came around shortly after that.
Yeah. So iCarly, you did iCarly. You even did Zoey 101 and then Henry Danger. Do you are you allowed to say if you had a favorite or you're not allowed to?
Of the cat, it's tough because the one beautiful thing about that producing group at Nickelodeon, our casting director was amazing, along with our executive producer, of not only the talent levels that they brought into the cast, but also the personalities. And it almost would have been easier if I could say if there was a show that I didn't like, but I can't find that one for you. There's a special place in my heart just because of longevity for Drake and Josh and iCarly and Henry Danger. We were just together for such a long time. But I love each and every one of the cast, and I have special memories from them all.
Oh wow, yeah, and all of those kids are doing extremely well in their careers. So they're lucky to have such a spectacular TV director to work with. And I wanted to ask you, so we've always talked about directing films, but can you share anything with directing sitcoms? How is it different from a film? Like single camera, and you said you rehearse, so we'd love if you could share a little bit about TV directing.
Yeah, sure. And, we have done some movies for TV with these shows also, but the sitcom format basically is on the first day, which is usually Monday. But if we were doing 2 shows at a time, one of the shows would then start on a Wednesday. But first day of the week, you have a table read where the cast gets together with the director and the producers. And we go through the script. We just read it. And the role of the director is I read all the stage directions in between all the lines. And then once we do that, the writers have a sense of timing, and then they know where they want to start to attack the script as far as rewrites are concerned. Meanwhile, we go on to set, the actors and myself and some of the crew, and we put the show up on its feet. I give them blocking, we rehearse to see where we're going to be, and then that's pretty much it for the first day. The second day, we come in and we rehearse some more. Now that they have a good feel for it and they've started to get on their lines as far as memorization, we rehearse more. And then we have, at the end of the day, a run-through, the first run-through, where the department heads and the writers and producers and the network comes down and they see it. performed as a play. We just walk from set to set in scene order, and we put on a play for them. Then they do more rewrites. We get the rewrites again. And then the third day, we rehearse those new rewrites. And then at the end of the day, we do the second run through. And then the writers make their last set of rewrites. And then we go in on Thursday to start shooting. Now, in a lot of sitcoms, they'll have an audience. We stopped doing audiences in Nickelodeon years and years ago during Drake and Josh. Both the boys just wanted to save the time and not have to wait around while we loaded in an audience, warmed up the audience, did cast intros, and then got into the show. They'd just rather keep on going and get the day done a little earlier. So that's what we did. And it was just incumbent upon the writers, myself, our dialogue coach, to put in the laughs so the actors knew where to hold their lines for where the laughs would break. So then it turned out that we would start to pre-tape on Thursdays, which most shows do. And then on Fridays, a lot of shows will do blocking and pre-taping, and then their audience show, we would just continue our taping, and then we'd get everything in the can by the end of that day. So that's a basic 5-day format for a sitcom.
Oh, wow. So, yeah. So would you say that people need a heavy theater experience, if they would want to go in that medium? It seems like it looks really fun. Like you said, part of it seems to be like theater directing. And then on the day of, it's showtime, like where it goes into a different kind of a format, right?
Yeah, very much so. And it is a little bit performance-wise like theater because you do have a proscenium. The audience is where the 4 cameras are. And so unlike film where you can pretty much turn any direction you want and have a conversation any way you want because we will then just move the camera and the lights to pick up all the different angles, you kind of have to play it out toward the audience, the 4 cameras. So it would be great if the actors all had theater experience, but since they're coming in so young usually to us, because they usually come in around age 10 through 13 is when they start, most of them have only had a little commercial experience or a little film experience. They might have done a school play here or there. So we still have to kind of train them to what's going on. But I always make the recommendation to young actors, go get theater experience because there's nothing better for a young actor than to perform a play and get that immediate feedback from the audience, whether you're delivering the joke right or the dramatic moment. You'll know if it's landing or not. And so it's a good way to hone your skills for that.
And do you have a preference, like live audience, or are you missing the live audience, or is it you like loving wrapping up early and going home? Like that must be nice.
Yeah, and depending what the show is and how the cast is spread with their call times, depends on how long or short our day is. The days would tend to get long, because Nickelodeon shows are, filled with stunts and camera effects and special effects, much more than a regular primetime sitcom. So our days are very involved, very high pressured. But I got to say, I do miss the audience shows because there's just something about that energy. And most actors really get pumped up by it. Once in a while, there will be an actor who just doesn't like it as much. They just get a little more, I don't know if nervous is the right word, but there's just a little more immediate pressure, and they would rather have the safety and the security and the serenity of just their own crew with no audience. But I'd say at least 75-80% of the actors probably feed off that live audience.
Yeah. And then so can you share a little bit, like you use the single camera. So is single camera mainly, would you say, is that specific to sitcoms, or what's the difference when you're between a single camera TV show and your other choices that you have? What is there a preference for you?
And a multi.
Yeah, multi-camera. Sorry about that.
Well, sitcoms, sitcoms are always multi-camera. We have A camera, B camera, C camera, and X camera.
Oh.
And the story is, and I forget if this was Norman Lear or Gary Marshall, they both kind of take credit for this, but there used to only be 3 cameras back in the days of I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke Show, The Honeymooners, all that. It was just A, B, and C camera. And the way Gary Marshall tells the story was that for the show Mork and Mindy with Robin Williams, Robin was just so active and they liked to let him improv and be impulsive. They didn't really know where he was going to go when they started taping. They might have blocked it one way, but he might improvise. So they brought in the X camera, which stood for extra camera. And one of those cameras was just dedicated to follow Robin around. But then it became the standard, and we just never changed the name, X. You always have a 4-camera spread in traditional sitcoms. Now there are shows like Modern Family and whatever that are more hybrid shows, and they will usually have a couple of cameras working, more like a traditional single camera film crew. But then the movies that we did for the different shows, sometimes we'd still use multiple cameras, but a lot of the time we had 1 or 2 camera setups. Like for Zoey 101, that was purely what you would call a single camera show. We shot it like a movie or a 1 hour episodic every week.
Oh, wow. And you also, you went to school, you graduated from University of Southern California, and then you also attended University of Pacific studying theater and communications. Do you ever do Alfred Hitchcock and, do some acting in any of your shows?
I got forced to be in an episode of iCarly called iCarly Saves Television. And we were at the production meeting for that show, going over the script with all the department heads of, what we needed for wardrobe and effects and music and stuff like that. And we got to the part of the director of the show that iCarly was, going to become on television. And the casting director said, what should this person look like? And our executive producer, Dan Schneider, said, like Steve. And I said, oh, you tall? And I said, yeah, like Steve. And he goes, about what age? He goes, like Steve. She goes, do you mean cast Steve? He goes, yes. And I said, no. And he said, yes. And I said, but I'm directing this and I haven't acted since college. And he's like, no, you're going to be great. And he's like, all right. So I was in at least 1 scene, maybe 2 scenes. Definitely did not steal the show by any means, but that's my one credit.
Oh, that's great. You did your little Clint Eastwood, writer, director, Well, yeah, that's awesome. And you also do
exactly.
Yeah, you also do voice acting. So is Sam, did you do any voice acting in any of the shows you've done? Or can you give us an impersonation of any little characters you've done?
Oh, yeah, any credits that you see for me voice acting are more because they looped something that they needed a director voice. So it's usually saying action cut or do it again, just in the background. Also for the show, the Amanda show, in between scenes, once a show, you would see my back walk on, there would be a high jib shot, and I was the first AD, and you'd see me walk on saying, okay, great, let's move it on, and I'd hustle the cast off. And so those are listed as my voice work. So no, I've never been cast as a traditional voice actor. I think it'd be a fun career, but I don't know if I have the talent for it.
So you got action, cut, do it again. I like that because so those are some techniques. So that's awesome. And so basically during COVID, you said that you don't have the audience anymore. But I was wondering, how has it affected your your work as a TV director on these shows?
Right. Well, I haven't been working at COVID. We finished Henry Danger in November of 2019, just at the end of November, and I finished editing the last show, which was kind of a mini movie, in January of 2020, and then COVID hit. So I was going to be looking for a new show, and there was just nothing to look for. And now production is starting to come back, so I will probably start to renew my search. But in the interim, I've been starting a podcast and been working on some development ideas of my own, which have just kind of been sitting there. And I've had ideas for theater, for documentaries, for sitcoms, for some feature films, for, various cable projects. So it's time to start fleshing some of those out. And a couple of them are coming along nicely, but nothing to report of.
So during COVID, it's affected a lot of people's art. And that's good that you've been writing and being creative during COVID. And can you tell us about your podcast that you started? Please tell us about it. What's the name again? It's The Populist?
It's just called Populist, and the L of list is capitalized. It's all one word, and it's called that because we are a top 10 show. My co-host, Kirk Trutner, and I have been friends since our early tour guide days. We trained as tour guides at Universal together. And so we take on a different subject every week. We have a website at populistpodcast.net where people can go on and participate in our weekly poll. We always have the topic of the next episode up on the website, and they can vote on their top 10 choices. So the show is basically structured in the first half where Kirk and I talk about the subject. We give our top 10 lists in reverse order, and we discuss and debate. And then we usually have a guest in the second half who talks about the subject. They give us their list, and then we read the results of the listeners' list. So the show goes about hour 15 to hour 25 minutes long usually. And we've done 12 episodes. The last one that we did, I'm drawing a blank. There's so many of them. We did Women of Rock and Roll. And then coming up, we're going to be doing best U.S. cities to visit. But as far as films are concerned, the very first episode we did was baseball films, top 10 baseball films. And then we've also done top 10 romantic comedies, which we just did for our Valentine's Day episode. So we get to talk about film a lot, which makes me happy.
Ah, that's fantastic. So once again, can you repeat that? It's called it's just Populist. Populist. And
Populist or Populist with Stephen Kirk, either one.
Okay. And then what was, where do they look that up? You said you had a website?
Yes, at populistpodcast.net. And then the show can be found on, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, all the major carriers.
It sounds fantastic. I'm definitely going to listen. Yeah. I might even know a couple people to send your way. Yeah. It sounds fabulous. So how did COVID, we know how COVID affected your art, and I just wondered, did you do any fun things during COVID? Did you learn how to ride a motorcycle or something fun like that? Any crazy kind of skills that you just on your bucket list?
Not so much. We got a little boating in on a river. I've got a small boat, and then I was flying my drone, as I mentioned earlier. We got a 10-month-old puppy a little while ago, a Labrador, and so we've been breaking her in and having a lot of fun with her. But I think my main COVID activity has been watching movies with my my teenager who's just turned 19, and we've been watching series of movies, the Lord of the Rings movies. We watched all the Marvel movies in order, the Oceans movies, the Harry Potter movies, Star Wars. We've been going through all these things. So a lot of movies, having a lot of fun. So that's been a major COVID activity for me.
Yeah. Well, I know you're going to be on a show soon. And where can the audience keep up with you? Do you have a Facebook page? Do you have a website where they can see what movies or TV shows or books or podcasts where they can just kind of just keep up with you and just find out what you're doing?
Yeah, well, I've got my director's reel, some of my clips from my career on Vimeo, just as Steve Hoefer on Vimeo. And the Populist Podcast site is a good one. And then, I should have written this down because my memory is horrible, but I am on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Instagram, and I tweet also. Nothing really professional on Facebook, so I wouldn't even throw that one out there.
What's your tweet handle?
Yeah, that's what I knew you were going to ask me.
Is it a fun name or is it your name?
It's my name. And shoot, I'm sorry. It escapes me. This is part of the reason getting old is not great.
Well, they can find you on your podcast. So I'm so excited to listen to your podcast. And when do you launch it? Is it once a week, or what is it? What day is the new one coming out?
It's about once every 10 days. So we just released the Women of Rock one about 2 days ago. And then the next one will be coming out on the 3rd of March, and that would be the favorite U.S. cities. But you can catch up with all the old ones, as with any podcast. All the other episodes are sitting there.
Oh yeah! Wow. Well, we just wanted to say thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure, and we've learned so much from you. And I'm so excited to hear what new TV show or film that you'll be directing. And I'll be listening to your Populist podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Film Addicts, for listening. Until next week, cheers. Stay healthy. Bye, everyone.